Walk, babies. Just walk. So we got mother and daughter on here. Two real nice little ponies. How they're bred, I don't really know. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, this is mum is the small one. You know, the shorter one. So we put her on the offside, and the near side, her daughter. So the only reason I thought I'd make a film today is people talk a lot about the weight of carriages and what horse can comfortably pull without, you know, distress or too much work and that type of thing. And there's so many factors in this. So what I've done is put them in this very big vehicle, and to look at it, you would think, no way can they pull that comfortably, you know, that would be too much for them. And yes, if you lived in the Lake District where you've got a lot of hills, etc., you would say it is. But what you have to remember is when you buy a vehicle, if I walk in there, a great big man like me weighing a lot, and you know, I used to weigh a great deal more than I do now, they'll sell me the same carriage because it's for a 12 to 13 2 vehicle. They'll sell me the same carriage as they would someone like, you know, I mean, seriously, a third of my weight, and they would sell us both the same carriage, and there would never be any consideration of the actual person who's purchasing it. So if you put it on with, it's got, you know, it's got 4 seats, 2 up the front and 2 behind, and you've got 4 big people, that can easily be, it can be twice the weight of 8 other people. Another thing as well, we've all pushed a motor car when the tyres haven't been pumped up correctly to the correct pressure, and they're virtually, you know, they really are hard to move, but if you pump them up to the correct pressure, they'll roll nice. It then again depends on the tyres that you've got on there. So like a old grey Fergie tractor, it's got 3 rims, one each side of the tyre and one in the centre. The one in the centre is more prominent, higher than the 2 on the outside. So we'll show you a picture of that if we can find a picture of a Fergie tyre. So that runs on the centre, so the drag on the road is reduced enormously. Whether you've got hard tyres, pump up tyres, you know, it all makes a difference. How fit your horses are. How well, no, that's wrong to say perhaps how well, but how much knowledge people have got of a horse's fitness, you know, and is it fit and up ready for the job. So what I'm going to do with this now is, I had a vet here once, just to come round, baby, just to prove, come round, darling, just to prove what we're saying. We'll have to do it again. You know, we have thousands of films obviously in the archives, and it's been mislaid, so we'll make another one with the vet here. So we'll get all their heart rate, etc., everything. The vet will examine them, and then we'll go and do a trip on a certain amount of miles, using the same up and down on the flat, like now for instance. Steady, baby, steady. They get on this grass, they want to, you know, they want to definitely get on and play, you know. But on here, this is much heavier work because the divots in the ground, tractors have been round it, making ruts, etc., bumps and like that, so it's not smooth going like a road surface. The other thing is the size of your tyres. Obviously, if you look at American vehicles, the reason for the size of the tyre being so large is because they went across prairie, well, all sorts of ground. They didn't tarmac roads from one side to the other, did they? They didn't even maintain them, they were dirt tracks. But by having a large wheel, it would cross even a small ditch. It would cross because of the size, the diameter of the wheel. They also drop the suspension down way below. If you look at a doctor's buggy, they're famous to call him, but a buckboard, any buggy like that, passenger vehicle, and even still relates now to the prairie schooners that had 6 foot wheels on them, 5 foot 6, 6 foot wheels, broad tyres, iron shod, broad tyres. That was to get them over the rough ground. So there's so many factors that go in. So I know that when someone is selling a car, or a manufacturer's got to say this is suitable for. But what I'm saying to you is, you can see these horses are not distressed, they're quite happy to pull. I haven't got to ask them up, I haven't got to say to them anything. If I just stop now, oh babies, just stand. Mum and daughter, one is 13.2, I think the other one's a bit less. So you see them standing, stand still my babies. But when I ask them to walk away, walk babies, come on in, walk on darling. You see them going away, they're not snatching at the collar, are they? They're not bouncing off the ground. Steady my babies, just walk. And there they go. So it's very, very hard thing to say what horse can do. And when I hear that, and this is, you know, it's just, we build our horses up so they come in having done nothing at all. 6 weeks later, they go down to Andover, which is, well, all depends which way you go. And there is a bit of leeway in this, you know, this mileage I'm giving you. But you go down there and you'll find that it's say 6.5 miles. 6.5 miles down, we'll stop and give them a blow, you know. Steady, baby. Steady, steady. So they'll be 6.5 miles down, and obviously 6.5 miles back. And I think, I'm just trying to think as I'm telling you, another way of going would make it 7.5 miles. But again, 7.5 miles, that sounds fine. You know, 6.5 miles sounds fine. But I think it's the 7.5 mile one's got more hills. So it's more like, you know, more work in other words. But these two little babies going up here, these horses are not fit yet. They were here for training, and the lady had to get a cart and harness, etc. And there was a delay with, you know, leaving the EU and getting stuff brought in. So consequences, they went home because there's no point in being here. So they were sort of, they was in and going, but they still needed, you know, their training to get them up to the standard that we do. So basically, these are pulling a massive cart, right? I mean, it is a big cart. It's not necessarily that it is, it's not as actually as heavy as it looks. Look, baby, there's some people walking on the pathway in there. That little one got a bit, who's that in there? Steady my little baby, come on my sugar plums. Hey? Come on Rosa, you little rascal. These are two characters, these are. Considering that's mum, the small one, and that's the youngster, her foal. They are two entirely different, you know, you've got to really understand them. And they're sensitive. Both of them are sensitive, but mum more so than the other one maybe. And they both got funny quirks, you know, it's just interesting. But they work really well together, you know, they're happy together. And there's no dominance from either one, so you haven't got one pulling faces at the other one, they just go quite nice together. And that little bit of ground we just come over between these fields is obviously the tractors have churned that up in the winter time, and there's a big old divot there, but they walk through it like it doesn't exist, like it's seriously not a problem. So yeah, it's a fascinating subject really, and it's generalised, and people you know, they get uptight about, you know, oh, that pony should only, you know. Now riding, I would definitely agree. It's not my subject. We do ride in here, obviously. We do, well, not obviously, but we do. We train quite a lot of horses actually for riding. Katie and Ree's section, really, that is. So But obviously, if you're going to put a lot of weight on its back, it's got to have the structure to carry that weight. These horses are, they don't pull a cart. I know people say I'm splitting hairs. They're not splitting hairs at all. If they pulled a cart, you'd tie it on their tail, wouldn't you? Then they would be pulling it. Yeah? What these doing is pushing a collar forward. So they're pushing the strap around their chest because it's a breast collar, they're pushing it forward. So they're laying their body weight on to it and just walking away, you know, with this this vehicle. So, and again, there's another thing to say there. If you've got a neck collar going around the horse, and obviously it's made for the horse, you know, like the measurements are right. They can take more weight because the surface area is far greater on a collar than it is on a breast collar. Now, if you say to me, oh, I don't agree, well, that's fine, don't agree. But if you get some chalk on a dark coloured horse, you know, like a bay, black, grey even, a dew chestnut, and you rub it round with chalk on the inside, put your breast collar on, do a mile's work, you know, just normal standard work, take it off and you'll be surprised how little surface collar. The other one is empathy collars, are even worse. I know people like them and that's their business, that's lovely. But if you put a bit of chalk, what, you know, mix up some chalk with water and paint it on, it won't hurt your harness, it wash off afterwards. And you put it on, you'd be surprised how little of the actual structure of the collar touches the horse. You know, takes any pressure at all. So if you have a neck collar, now years ago when I was a nipper, you order a set of harness off your harness maker and he'd give you the body. So the body's now made with the 4-well fixed on, and what they used to say to you, they put a canvas cover over it. Now whether this is true of all harness makers, I don't know, I can only say the ones I knew. So they put a bit of canvas over it, and obviously all the straw and everything was sewn round, you know, as you were saying, the 4-well on was locking the straw in position with thread. And what they used to do is put a cover on it, you know, just on the inside, a canvas cover, and you'd soak it in a trough overnight, then put it on your horse and work him in it for a day, you know, or, you know, whatever his work shift was. You'd work him in it and you'd give it back to the harness maker, and then he'd cover it with your leather, you know, painting if it was a show collar or a posh turnout, and it would be done with, you know, with ordinary leather if it was an everyday working collar, you know, like for a trolley, baker's van. All the things that were delivered years ago all come by different tradesmen. Now it all comes in one van from Sainsbury's, doesn't it? But you'd have the fishmonger, the butcher, steady my baby, the greengrocer, steady my darling babies. So I'm going to come round here now, so if you just have a look in front now and just look at this slope going up here, right? And these horses will pull this up without any trouble at all. And are they distressed, unhappy, are they puffing, are they blowing? No. You know, they're just going up here, lovely. Are they getting excited because they're going up here? Do they want to try and run up here? No. This one's Tracy's, he's slack, can you see? Mum's not doing a thing. The little pony's just pulling away, but not stressed. Come up, mummy. Come on. That's it, Rosa. Steady, my babies. Just walk. You see they're nice and cool under here for them. So, I hope that, and this is only what I believe. It does not make it, and people will argue the point, and I will gladly discuss with anybody what I believe to be true and what I've learnt over the years. They say horse can pull, I don't know, there's so many different things, but I want to know who are these great experts that know. You know, who are they? If you go back and look at the old, and if anyone says to me, oh yeah, but horses will work to death, that's the biggest lot of bullshit I've ever heard in all my life. You're telling me a man, it was obviously people who didn't look after their horses, just the same as people don't look after their lorries and trucks today, no different. They don't, you know, they don't look at them, don't check the oil in the engine, don't do anything like that, don't get the brakes checked. Well, exactly the same with your horse. Wanted maintained, he wanted a good clean water, didn't he? A clean bed to lie on. He wanted it definitely, without any question, decent harness on his back so he'd be comfortable, asking him to go to work. And there's my darling. There's my little babies. Come on, my little sugars. So over this rough ground, you can, you know, see it's moving about and bouncing as we go. And there they are, doing it perfectly happily. And if you look down at the traces, they're not, you know, bone tight all the time. They're not like tight ropes, are they? They're just exactly the same as if we was going up the road. The slack is taken out of them as they push the collar forward. So there's so many variants, so many things to consider. I mean, like, if you look back, there was lots of, one of the things that's still available, someone had the sense to get the catalogue books from, I think it's the Bristol Wagon Company, I'm sure that's what it's called, and they made them into paperbacks and sold them. But you could see in there, they talk about a 14.2, if you can get a copy, you probably look online, I think they call it, looking online. But you'd see in there the Bristol Wagon Company made vehicles for horses to pull. Well, they had, years and years ago, they had containers on the railway, yeah? Well, them containers were lifted off and put straight onto a four-wheel dray for horse to pull. The first containers were wooden and lifted off with a steam crane and put onto that, you know? So you had four-wheeled vehicles for the coalman, for the, you know, the fruit and veg, for people moving stuff about. There was one in London down by Chelsea Embankment when I was a kid, and they used to make lead piping. So they made lead piping for downpipes for rainwater, hoppers with all fancy, you know, mouldings on the front of them. You know, hoppers for catching the rain at the top. When you've got a valley gutter, it would run into there from your gutter in and go down a downpipe. When it was all done really fancy, well, they had a cart there with a nice broad tyre, but the tyre on it, the metal tyre, was rolled, what they call rolled. So instead of being dead flat across, which, you know, they had some trouble, I believe, in the army sometime. Not some trouble, but, you know, just a lack of knowledge, I suppose. That's the wrong thing to say, but, you know, anyway, they had flat tyres. Well, if you want to, you know, skid a gun carriage round, what you need to do is the centre of the tyre must be higher than the sides. So if you cut it in half, the tyre, and had a look just at the metal tyre on there, you'd see it look like a dustbin lid shape. So it was running on the centre. It was broad enough not to sink in the mud, which obviously was important, yeah? And it was, you know, a curved shape, like a dustbin lid. It's the only way I can describe it. So, come round, my darlings. Come round, babies. Yes, you are, you little rascal. Yes, you are. You good babies. And if I asked them now to, you know, to trot, they'd trot straight away. They wouldn't be fighting or arguing or worried or anything at all. So you've seen them come up that slope, no trouble at all. Just walking up there nice and sensible. So I don't want to cross swords with anybody. I don't want to do that. And you can, everyone's got their own opinions and arguments, right? But what I said, you know, just out of interest, many years ago, we made a film of a Shetland pony. I think actually it was a miniature also. Might have been I don't know what it was. But anyway, now, and we was just seeing, you know, what it could do comfortably. So we had the vet there every time we come back in the yard. So we checked its heart rate, recovery rate, which is the most important thing after work, you know, how long it takes them to recover. Also, the training's a very important thing. They've got to understand what you're asked to do, and you've got to be able to understand the horse you're driving, yeah? Just understand the horse you're driving. How do I mean that? I don't know how to put that into words really, other than what I've said. But basically, you know, you've got to get the best out of your horses and for them to be happy. That's the main thing, isn't it? I don't want these horses in front of me to be unhappy. I just, you know, just want them to enjoy what we're doing. So I took a little bit of film, which is a rarity. Whether it will be used or not, I don't know. Of the two standing in the yard in front of this great big vehicle. And you'd say, well, they can't pull that. But here you see them pulling it perfectly happy. They're not distressed. They're not doing anything. And these have only been back with us for a couple of weeks, I think. And we've had them out with a you know, Cloud, the schoolmaster, just to give them a refresher course and let them remember everything they've done before. And obviously they've got a little bit fit, but they're not fit yet. But they're not unfit either, I've got to say. You know, when they weren't great big fat things, when they come back they was just, you know, a little bit perhaps heavy, but not a lot, you know. So there you go, you see them walking along there perfectly happy and doing their job. The young one, he's a bit more forward going. I could alter that, couldn't I? Obviously with my coupling reins, I certainly wouldn't change a bit to operate, you know, to make it go. But I'd alter my coupling reins back so we've got a little tiny bit more pressure on it, just to say to her, steady up baby, you haven't got to do it all. And let them come up a bit, you know, mummy come up a bit. So there you go. I hope that helps. But I suppose people have got to give guidelines, and I suppose really if we treat them like guidelines, and I think that's how they're intended by these societies, or you know, the carriage manufacturer or wherever it may be, that a horse can pull this, so therefore that's what it needs to do. But no one ever mentions where you live. If you live in Lincolnshire, it's as flat as a bloody pancake, like a billiard table. No bloody work for horse there. It's like Friesians out in Holland. You see them pulling loads like you couldn't believe. 30 years ago when I was out there, the Friesian horse was like a large Dales horse, really. Dales pony, you know. And 15.2 was their size. They did have knee action. There's a reason for that, in my opinion. You know, they live on the fens. They're forever, you know, walking through a bit of soft stuff a lot of the year. So, you know, I don't know. I believe that as a, you know, gets bred into them. The amount of effort it takes to move their feet, you know, along in the heavy going soil. It's loamy soil out there. It's reclaimed from the sea. So I think that has some bearing on it, but I don't know. It's just what I believe. But they were very much like that, very stocky made. And you see them pulling, they have some vehicles there that were made for Friesian horses. They've got little tiny sideboards on, one at the back. They've got their steering on the front is the same as a motor car. So instead of a turntable, they've got, you know, the same as a motor car, whatever that's referred to as. That's how they turn, and they'll load that with sugar beet, and it'll be, I don't know, be 10 by 5 without any question, and maybe bigger. Walk up there, but steady, my baby. So up this slope here, you can see them just come in together and pull away. It's lovely, not distressed. They're not losing their foot on this ground, and this dry grass is the best thing in the world for stopping you getting the grip. You know, your foot will slide over it, or their little shoes will slide over it. Steady, my babies. Yeah, you see them horses out there in Holland, and I've seen a pair of them back that 30 years ago or more in Friesland, and I had two of these bloody great vehicles, one after the other. But then when you think about it, it was no work, was it? You've got some deer running across the field there. The youngsters seen, not a little mate. She's seeing them bouncing across there. And what's that? That's strange looking horses. But as I say, it's as flat as a pancake. And the other thing, and it takes some believing, I've seen them drive a pair of horses without a pole. Without a pole. So all they'll have is a piece of metal coming off the front, a short piece of timber about, I don't know. I used to have one of these carts. I brought one back from Holland. It was brilliant. And then someone wanted to buy it, and I weren't using it much, but it was because the sides on it, the little bits that drop out the sides, was so you could load hay on it. So it's 5 foot wide. That made it 6 foot 6 wide, I think. So you could load more hay on it, you know, or sheaves of corn, take them to the mill. Steady my babies. So we've been all round this field now. I do know somewhere we've got a record of how far it is round here. So we're going downhill now, and if you look over there, we're going to climb up, and then if you look over there, we're going to drop down, then we're going to climb up over into that far corner, and we'll be back home again. So the dear little children, they're doing lovely, aren't they? They're just happy, you know, they're not stressed, they're not, oh my God, I can't take this weight, it's killing me. They're just going along nice and sweet. Got to put my brake on a bit down here, just to hold the vehicle. I come down here the other day with a biggish pair of horses, and had a little bit more foliage on the ground than it's got now, because the tractors have been going around and taking all the corn off, so obviously I'd knocked the top off, but it was more like this stuff over the side here, and I put my brakes on, and it was like a sledge, it just slid on top. You know, where the grass has been so dry, it was like sliding down a thatch roof, you know. Steady my babies. So you can see there, they're quite happy, they're relaxed, they're not bothered by the experience, they're not, oh my God, I can't do that again, you know, that's so tiring, and they are not fit yet. So what is the right amount? But I do understand the manufacturers, the people that sell them, and I don't know about, you know, they've got to say something, and they've got to be perhaps on the low side to cover themselves, because, but it all depends, as I said, going over the great list of things that it can be, the size of the wheels, whether they're solid tyres or pumped up, whether they're pumped up properly, how the harness fits and is that comfortable, is your vehicle well greased up, your brakes are not sticking on. Now they can be sticking on, you know, your pads, if you've got some disc brakes, your pads can be running on, you know, just touching the thing. Now in a motor car, you'd never notice, of course you wouldn't, but you know, on a full-strong vehicle you would. And it's like the load you're carrying. Now we carry quite a bit on this vehicle because it's, you know, a training vehicle. So it's got 2 big boxes on the back that carries a water supply. It's got an actual proper water supply that fits inside the boxes, but it's worn out, it's got a split, so we've got a 5-gallon container on at the moment till we get a replacement. But you see these going up here on the slack rain, perfectly happy, and not, you know, sweating, dripping in sweat or puffing and blowing. Of course they're not. And it's a hot day, you know, it is a hot day. I'm not making them get on, I'm not saying to them anything, they're just walking up here themselves. Might would help themselves to a bit of grass. Well, what grass there is. Come on my darlings, my little babies. What do I call that horse? Rosa marks on.
Rosa Gold.
Rosa Gold, yeah. Let's put it back again. This is, you know, not my favourite. I just love this little tiny pony, I really do. It's what I love them both, they're beautiful. You know, they've got different characters, but, you know, Rose Gold here, my Rosa Gold, she's a proper little thing. That's the other thing I would say to you as well. And, you know, Boo Boo, that one there, that's what I call her anyway, Boo. She knows me and all when I speak, she listens. So, come on my darlings. So I'm just going to film this bit here, well I'm not, but we will. We're just coming down here now into this dip, and you watch them pull up, no trouble at all. I just got my foot rested on the brake here, just so that, you know, it's not pulling them down the hill. Do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of slack in the chain and in the britching. Yeah, oh, Rosa Gold, she's lovely. Proper character. Funny, innit? Like, there's me and Ree, you know, that do it all really. Unless it's riding, then it's Ree and Katie. But the, like, this little one's taken to me a bit, you know. They most all take to Ree, and I'm not taking anything. Ree's got away with them, you know. There's no two ways about that. They like her anyway. But, you know, she does feed them. But they're still, you know, after they've been fed or they're still eating there, they'll still call for her as she goes out the stable door. You know, you'll see a lot of them put their head around and have a look where you've been. Like this morning, we was down in the town with a horse, and Ree went off to get a coffee, and the horse was calling after her. And then someone else come up that was about the same size, you know, a little midget person, come up and had a green top on and little sort of, I don't know, thorny coloured trousers. And he started hollering and calling and shaking his head, you know, like shaking his head up and down, like, come for me, you know. Like she wants to put her head over Ree's shoulder and hold her to her. She likes to do that. And that's what the horse is doing when it's nodding its head like that. Come here, you know. And when it got close, and she realised it weren't, she just turned her head away and looked at me. Must say, do you see that? Look, someone's doing impressions. So here we are walking up this side of the hill, look. Have I hit them once? Have I smacked them once? Have I said to them, get up there, oi, that'll do. Hey, come on. Come on, up you come. Come over. Get them off this crop. Come over, darling, that's it. Come over there, my baby. Come on, my baby child. That's it, Rosa Gold. Come on. I used to know a travelling lady, a dear lady, who was very good to me when I was at Nipper, and she was called Rosa Gold. Her surname was Gold, and her name was Rosa, so she got called Rose Gold, you know. So, like, you get a gold now these days with a high copper content. Come on, my darling. Come on. That's it. So you see them now, rose gold, yeah, that, you know, that colour of gold. And you can just see they're happy working away. It's not hard work. They're not sweating, dripping sweat, and they're entitled to. If they went just up the road in the lightest cart you could possibly find, they would be, you know, it's a very, very hot day. And we've been out in the sun 90% of the time, and then obviously as you come round you get little bits of shade here and there, which is nice. So we're just going to go across the road now. He's going to go and open the gate because the automatic gate opener's not working properly. So Ree's going to go and open the gate, and then we're going to go in and give these a rinse off and have a cup of tea. So we've just come back across now, and this is a thing that happens. We're just going to pop it into this film. So see this young lady here, Chorida, just pulled her bridle off, see? Can you see? So we have them collars around their neck, and we slip the throat rush through. So although she's attempted to pull it off, it's held in place. What we do on other occasions is we plait the mane and make a loop to go round the pole piece and hold it in way. Reel go down and just have a look now. And you can see they've just come in the yard. You see them walk in, and they're as good as gold. You know, they're not puffing and blowing, and they're as happy as anything.
There's a smile on my face every time I hear that sound. the rhythm of the hooves as they touch the ground. And there's no better place I'd rather be than with my safe, confident horse that's had